Hello, I'm Becky Campbell, and I've created a new product for the Gypsy Quilter. The product is stitch fast, and the inspiration for creating this was I fell in love with hexagons and the rest of the English paper piecing surge that is happening now. Stitch fast is a reusable self-stick template that eliminates prep work and allows you to straight stitch by machine or by hand. When I fell in love with the hexagons and the English paper piecing, I didn't want to do the prep work or whip stitch shapes together. So the Stitch Fast eliminates all that for you. There are 11 packages, and you will find 5 shapes of 5 different sizes of hexagons. There are diamonds, jewels, octagons, and there's a package of blank sheets so that you can copy anything you want to it to use in any way that you choose. Also, there's a Lapel package, and this is for this quilting craze, and all the shapes are in there. There are 5 shapes for that, and you can put them together, and this is what it will create. So again, you want to understand that you can do it by hand or by machine, and you won't be able to tell the difference. With whip stitching, you're going to see whip stitching. With straight stitching, you won't be able to tell. The center of this is done right here by hand, and then I switched out and did straight stitching, and when you look at the front, you can't tell the difference. And it's surprising how well these little shapes can go together with the machine. Traditionally, you're going to, for English paper piecing, put a piece of paper behind your shape, and then you're going to fold this down, and you're going to stitch to hold it in place, and then you're going to whip stitch. And I wanted to do an example just so that you could see that I could do it, but it took quite a while to do this. With the Stitch Fast, you can speed up the process and accomplish a lot of things at once. When you get a package, there'll be 6 sheets in here, so you get a lot of product, and I said that they are reusable. This was, when I created this sample, I marked the template each time I moved it, and I got about 13 uses out of each template. As I moved it along, I made a little mark on it. So it worked really well, and when you think about it, with the size of package, how many you're getting in there, you're going to be able to do a lot of hexagons. When you get your package and you decide on what shape you're going to do, you're going to cut your shape out, and then you can stick your shape to the front of your fabric, and you can cut your shapes out. So you don't need a bunch of templates to be able to cut shapes out. You can stack your fabric up and then just use your 1/4 ruler and just go along here. I like to use this little mat because I can spin it around without it taking up a lot of my space. So you just use your 1/4 ruler or 1/4 ruler, go around and trim out your shapes. The other thing I think is pretty exciting is that a lot of the English paper piecing involves fussy cutting. So in this case, you've determined where you want this, and if you want to cut another shape out just like that, all you have to do is place it on here and line your motif up, and you will have duplicated your shape and trim that out too. You can also take your shape and cut a strip that's a 1/2 inch wider than the shape, and just line up your shapes there, and then be able to cross cut and cut multiple shapes out at the same time from a strip. And by making it a 1/2 inch bigger than this template, it saves you that cut each time you do it. All right, so once you've gotten your shapes trimmed out, we'll look at the hexagons. You're just going to flip your fabric over to the wrong side, and you're just going to eye up what the center is. Then you're going to take your next shape and just put it up against there, and what you're going to do is you can stitch by hand or machine. You're just going to start right at this corner and then you're going to straight stitch to this corner. You're going to tack at the beginning and tack at the end, and then you will have sewn your shape together. You want to continue to add shapes to all sides, and then once that's done, you just remove your template and put it on another shape and continue along as before, just adding shapes and stitching them. So you can stitch this by machine or by hand. The La Pascala shapes are sometimes frighteningly small, but you will be surprised at how easy they are to do. This little piece just goes on here, and this was stitched by machine, and you just add another shape, and this one that's on here was used for like 3 days straight. You can continue to use them quite often, and then this right here becomes the star that you see in this pattern there. When you are done using your shapes and you want some place to put them, the goddess sheet is a really good place to put them. If you stick them on the side of your sewing desk or whatever, when you come back you'll find them the next day hard to remove. So the goddess sheet is really nice. It keeps them nice and clean and sticky, and you can just put them on there and reuse them when you're ready. The blank sheet that we talked about, one way to use this is if you want to do regular paper piecing. So regular paper piecing, you would just print your block on there, cut it apart, and then you can take your different shapes and place it on your fabric. Once again, use your add a quarter ruler to trim around it. At the outside of the block you want to leave extra, and this allows you to be able to cut directionally. If you're doing a stripe or something and you want to know which direction it's going to go, now you would know. So you just cut your shapes out, and then when we were doing the hexagons, we just used a template on one side. When you do the paper piecing, you keep the template on both and just match the corners up, and you sew from edge to edge right along the template, not through it. So when you're done stitching, you just remove it. You don't have to rip anything out, and you do not have to lower your stitch length because you're not stitching through paper, so you're not having to cut the paper with your stitches. So regular paper piecing and applique is another way to use the blank sheet. So you just would take a blank sheet and copy whatever your pattern is to it, cut that out, and put it, if you're using the innovative applique way, on the front of your fabric, trim 3/16 out around the edge, and then I like to use Roxanne's glue, baste it, apply a little bit of glue along here, and just turn that down. The paper holds the shape, and just the seam allowance is turned down for you. So then you end up with a perfectly turned shape, and you just use a little bit of glue to put it on your background where it belongs, and then you can stitch it down by machine or hand later. Another really popular English paper piecing block that is group that's going on is the new Hexagon, and so I wanted to show you an example of a block. This is block number 1, and I used this and the diamond shape and pieced this block together by machine. I could have done it by hand, but I can do it by machine now too, so that makes it really easy, and nothing was pre-turned, all straight stitching, nothing to whip stitch. So that works really well for that. Here is an example of the Octagon, and then you just add the little 1-inch square, and it works really well and increases your productivity quite a bit. You can go from traveling with a project to back home and sit down at the sewing machine and sew with the product. Experience this innovative way to do English paper piecing and more. Request these templates at your local quilt shop. Thank you for watching.